Okay, seventh stage is the bhava stage. After asakti, we have bhava. So the bud was there in asakti, now it opens up, and we get a flower. It's called bhava or rati. In one sense, it's a stage of prema. It's the first stage of prema. It's called prema ankura, the bud of prema. So it's more or less a type of inferior prema. So in this stage, we get manifestation of the form of the Lord. Here's where one can actually see the Lord. Asakti, it was a reflection only. So some brief reflection. And bhava, actually, there is the manifestation of the actual Lord, not a reflection anymore. Consequently, we get ananda. And when we get this bhava, avidya disappears. So ahankara, we had this whole thing, avidya, asmita, etc., on the kleshas. So all those things, all the way up to avidya is removed at this stage. With all these things removed. How? If Krishna appears, it cannot exist. Krishna appears before you, then automatically everything else is gone. One has no other interest except Krishna. So all of this is finished. At this stage, the two other aspects of bhakti manifest, sudurlabha and moksha lagu kriti. Sudurlabha means very rare, which means that bhava cannot be attained by gyanis and karmis and yogis, only by devotees going through these stages of nishta, ruchi, asakti, and mercy of Krishna only. So practice itself does not guarantee getting to bhava and Krishna revealing himself. He'll only reveal himself when he wants to. So you can practice for 1,000,000 years. If he doesn't want to, he won't reveal himself. You don't get bhava. So it's up to the will of Krishna. I mean, that's why it's very rare. He does not submit to everyone. So therefore, bhava itself is rare. Bhakti in general is not rare, but bhava becomes rare because the Lord will appear to the devotee and serve the devotee. So he doesn't want to do that with everyone. And moksha luguta kriti, liberation, impersonal liberation becomes insignificant. Why? Because the devotee experiences ananda in relation to the Lord, and the bliss of moksha, that is brahmananda, becomes useless at that stage. The bliss of bhakti is much more. So this is what happens. We get the bliss, we get liberation with destruction of avidya, but we go beyond liberation because we have a vision of the Lord which creates positive bliss. Liberation meaning the destruction of all the bad things. So that's the negative thing. The bliss of moksha is absence of birth, death, old age, and disease. Lamentation. The bliss of bhava accomplishes that because avidya is destroyed. But the Lord appears, so that creates greater bliss, positive bliss. So avidya was destroyed. We saw in that diagram that anartha is due to karmas, anartha is due to bhakti were there, anartha is due to aparad was there. And the anartha is due to aparad remained even up in the bhava stage. So in bhava, there's no more karmas left, but there's a little obstacle because of the effects of aparad. That little black thing on the end, there's a little bit of something there. So that's why it's not called prema, because there's this little obstacle there. And because of the little obstacle, rasa does not manifest fully. So the ananda is there, but it's not full ananda. So, even though there is some little obstacle there, out in the form of aparad, bhava attracts Krishna, so he might manifest himself by his mercy to that person. In Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says, bhava is very rare. And therefore, even if the bhava bhakta has a fault, one cannot criticize that. Because he's a very rare person. So for that reason, we don't criticize Bharat for falling down. Yeah, he had a fault. We don't criticize because He had attained Bhava stage, which is very rare. And the Lord reveals himself to him. And the Lord will never forget that person. So generally, even if he falls, the Lord protects him, as he protected Bharat. So when he became Jat Bharat, then he got Prema. So therefore, the Lord protects these devotees, even if they make mistakes and fall or whatever. So the devotee at this stage is very attracted to Krishna because there's very little obstacle and a little bit of that trace of aparadha is there at that stage. So how does he see the Lord? Because he's developed spiritual senses, spiritual body, due to bhakti. If he performs jnana, he doesn't develop a spiritual body. He does not perceive Krishna. He just is consciousness, that's all. By the performance of bhakti, he develops spiritual body and develops spiritual senses. And therefore you can perceive the sweetness of Krishna through seeing, smelling, hearing, touching, tasting. And of course thinking. So, therefore the spiritual body manifests in bhava stage. So we do sadhana, 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 go through nishta, ruchi, asakti, and then in bhava we see Krishna and we also develop our spiritual form. Because we can only see Krishna if we got a form. We got to have eyes, not material eyes. So we have a spiritual form that sees Krishna also. So not only we see Krishna, we serve Krishna in a spiritual body. So that begins to develop in the bhava stage. So where does that body come from? Obviously it's in the spiritual, not material, so it's from the spiritual world manifest. Now, there is, of course, a controversy about how to develop the spiritual body, because in Raganuga, you got Siddha Pranali, in which you get your spiritual body when you're doing sadhana bhakti, nishta or ruchi or sakti. You get a body and you meditate on serving in that body. So that is one way of developing your spiritual body, through sadhana itself. Concentrating on a certain form and serving in that form, and then in bhava, it manifests as a spiritual body actually, and sadhana is not. So when you get your Siddha Deha and Raganuga Bhakti, it's not a spiritual body as such. It becomes spiritual in Bhava and Prema only. Yeah. So it's a sadhana in Raganuga Bhakti. In Bhava Bhakti, it becomes actual spiritual body. So it is a practice to it. And what type of spiritual body you take? According to your practice. So if you practice worshipping Vishnu and Vaidhi Bhakti, then you get a four-handed Vishnu dude form ultimately. If you worship Krishna as a cowherd boy worshipping Sakya Rasa, then you develop a cowherd body. If you worship as a Madhurya Rasa, as a Saki, you get a Saki body, etc. So depending on your sadhana, then your spiritual body develops in that particular relationship. This is Bhava stage. So one is identifying with the spiritual body and relationship with Krishna. Material body is like useless at this stage. You neglect your body completely. It's like a shell only. Spiritual qualities, we saw the subhada, spiritual qualities, they manifest very, very prominently at this stage. They start in sadhana, and in bhava, they much, much more. And of course, Kleshagni was taking place in sadhana, and it's all gone, all the kleshas are gone in bhava stage when avidya itself is destroyed. Possessiveness of Krishna, mamata. This increases, this is a quite high stage. One has a complete attraction and a possessiveness of Krishna. Krishna is mine. Because of his absorption in Krishna, he appears insane. We saw in Asakti stage even, generally he neglects society and society criticizes the person. In Bhava stage, he's completely like an insane person. Because he doesn't relate with anybody. He's not even in his body most of the time. Body is lifeless. Types of bhava. From Vaidhi Bhakti. You do Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti through, Anarjana Vritti, Nishta Ruchi Sakti Bhava. You get up to bhava through Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. This is considered to be weaker than going through Raganuga. It's less intense, the relationship in Vaidhi Bhakti. Because we're seeing Krishna as a very powerful entity and we are the servant. So the relationship, and you can go from bhava to prema, but the relationship is a little weaker. there's a Dasya Rasa, and it's a little weak because we see Krishna as Supreme Lord, or Vishnu as Supreme Lord, etc. And if one goes through Raganuga Bhakti, which is more spontaneous, less reliance on rules and regulations, not seeing Krishna as Supreme Lord, but as friend or lover, whatever, the relationship is more intense, and is also considered to be quicker. Either leads to Bhava stage. At Bhava stage, it's no longer, Vaidhi Bhakti is no longer all rules and regulations, it's also spontaneous. In either case, it becomes spontaneous, but the mood is slightly different because one's seeing Krishna as God or Vishnu as God in Vaidhi Bhakti, and in Raganuga, we lose that identity, and we see Krishna as a friend, Krishna as a lover, Krishna as the baby, etc. And we don't see him as Supreme Lord. So the relationship becomes more intense. So, through Vaidhi sadhana, you go through Vaidhi Utta Bhava and to Vaidhi Utta Prema. And Utta means arising from Vaidhi, we get Prema. Or through Raganuga. What's the difference? The end result will be that our Prema, we also see him as God in Vaidhi Utta Prema. And through Raganuga, we see Krishna as friend, whatever. We don't see him as God. That's what happens. So, the sadhana determines the final result. So, we got a bhava stage. The sthayi bhavas manifest. We said there was 5 sthayi bhavas. Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. So, Visvanath Chakravarti compares them to different juices. Dasya is like grape juice, and Sakya Rasa is like sugarcane juice, and Vatsalya is like jackfruit juice, and Madhura Rasa is like mango juice. So they're different tastes. They're all sweet, different tastes and different intensities. But in general, people will prefer the mango juice. So therefore he says that Madhurya Rasa is the most preferable, like the mango is preferable, but the others are tasty. Some particular people will go for jackfruit juice or grape juice or whatever. So therefore there are devotees in Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya. Shanta is a rather neutral rasa, so the devotees generally do not aspire for that. But persons like the Kumaras are in Shanta Rasa. They recognize the Lord, they appreciate the Lord, but it is distant. Slightly sweet water, maybe. Coconut water. Coconut water. Glucose water, maybe. So in the stage of bhava, we had the sthayi bhava manifesting, the shanta dasya, etc. And we have the vibhava and the sattvika bhavas, anubhavas, and brahmacharya bhavas also manifesting. So this will produce rasa. But is not really complete in this stage. The mamata is the possessiveness of Krishna's bhava is intense in bhava stage. There's still a little obstacle left. So these things don't manifest fully. There we had previously the explanations of those things. So that's bhava stage. Okay. And then we get to prema, the last stage.